Hi, let's paint an eye. In this video I'm going to paint a realistic eye with oil paints. You'll see a complete process step by step, and I also try to share some tips along the way. It's one of many ways you could approach this topic, and here I'm going to show the way I do it. If you wish, you can join me and paint along, or you can just watch to see my example and then experiment with your own ways. Whatever you choose to do, enjoy! Firstly, let me share the tools used. I use palette knife for paint mixing. For most of the painting and to block the colors, I used a filbert brush and also a dagger brush, which was also used for brows. For the sketch and more detailed parts, I used a small round brush. And last but not least, the liner brush for lashes. So far in my paintings, I've been using Rembrandt and Michael Harding oil paints. Both brands have high quality oil paints which I enjoy working with, though the first ones are more affordable. As a medium, I use Winsor & Newton liquid. The colors on my palette here are as follows: titanium white, cadmium lemon, cadmium red light, quinacridone rose, burnt sienna, burnt umber, ultramarine deep, cobalt teal. And here's the eye photo reference I'll be using for this painting. Feel free to use it as well if you wish. And let's begin. I start with a sketch on a previously toned surface. For the sketch, I use tinned burnt sienna. I do the sketch to establish the placement of the painting subject on the board. You could skip this step and jump into color blocking right away, but that would more often than not lead you into trouble later on if you're not experienced. With this, we want to make sure our subject is in the center, if that's our intention, and that everything we want to fit on the canvas actually fits there. How detailed the sketch is up to you, but usually the more detailed sketch, the easier it will be later, as you'll have most of the thinking done and you'll be able to focus on painting and technique alone, rather than having to think where to paint what and if the proportions are correct, etc. Now, when the sketch is done, let's proceed to the actual color painting. I start with the white of the eye, which, as you can see here, isn't painted with white at all. This is because the light and colors around may change the way things appear. So my advice is to not be afraid to use bold colors, even if at times it might seem illogical. When you try to paint something, try to actually study the object, and then paint what you really see instead of what you think you see. Just like in this example, if somebody asked what's the color of the white of the eye, the logical answer would be white. But when you look again at the photo, or anything that you're painting at the moment, you'll notice hints of blue, purple, and probably some other colors. So I encourage you to play around with these observations. The next thing you might notice is that perception of colors might differ depending on what other colors you have around it. A color surrounded by muted elements might appear much more saturated, while if put next to other high chroma paints, might immediately appear toned down. So that means if something might not really make sense in the beginning, later on, when you add some more elements around it, it will begin to look actually reasonable. Just as a side note, keep in mind that this demonstration isn't made in real time, but it was sped up. The whole process is much slower, so don't be discouraged while it might seem quick in this video. in reality, oil painting is pretty slow technique, so to speak. So you gotta be patient with it and with yourself. And I can assure you it will be worth it. When I blocked in the majority of the painting, it's time for some more details. The difference with realistic painting compared to photorealistic is that while we want it to look real, we don't really want to copy everything one to one. The important thing is to choose what is crucial in order to portray some of that reality and what can be skipped, as the mind of the viewer will fill in the blanks anyway, and they'll still be able to recognize and consider the object as real. So here I'm adding some of the skin texture, some light bleaks, some pores, some wrinkles, but I don't really have to paint every single one of them in the exact same place as they are on the photo. Painting some here and there in places where they are most prominent will definitely do the job and add greatly to the realism of the painting. The same principle applies here to painting lashes. Nobody's gonna count the lashes and check if it agrees with the amount of lashes in the photo, but to make them look realistic, you need to make sure you know how they work, which side of the eyelid do they grow from, some are stick together, some are separate, where are they longer and where shorter, and so on. At the end, I just add some more details. And I finish here with a quite realistic eye painting. It's obviously not perfect, but reality isn't perfect either, so I think paintings don't have to be as well. I hope you enjoyed this eye painting demonstration and that it was at least a tiny bit helpful. If you have any questions, suggestions or requests for future videos, feel free to write them down in the comment sections. I'm always happy to hear from you. And if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to do so to stay up to date with my new art videos. Thank you for being here and I wish you happy painting. See you next time!